Hello and welcome to the FI News Review. Each week we focus on relevant news in the food and beverage industry. Let's take a look at some of the top stories. The controversy over the Kroger-Albertsons merger is coming to a head. The Federal Trade Commission is joining several states in preparing to file a lawsuit to halt the deal. The lawsuit is expected before February 28th, the date of expiration of a previously made agreement with the FTC not to close on the union. Washington and Colorado have already filed their own suits, and California has been considering one as well. This merger has long been opposed by numerous lawmakers and labor groups over antitrust concerns and potentially unfair labor practices. In global news, food continues to be the most stolen commodity in the global supply chain. Food theft accounts for a third of all hijacking incidents. That's a 29% increase from last year. Notable incidents include the theft of more than 52 tons of olive oil from Greece in 2023. In terms of type of theft, cargo stealing remains significantly high. Further data also shows that the perpetrators are focusing on basic goods that have gone through big price increases. And as the popularity of weight loss drugs continue to rise, so do the impacts on food and beverage. Conagra Brands recently stated that it may have to scale down portion sizes of its products to appeal to weight loss drug users. As the drug is used, appetites decrease, leaving consumers with a feeling of fullness. The drugs, known as GLP-1s, have investors worried about food sales. But Conagra states that this situation is, quote, an opportunity for growth within our portfolio, unquote. To unpack the meaning of that, let's bring in Food Institute's very own Chief Content Officer, Kelly Beaton. Kelly, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Susan. The weight loss drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy continue to dominate the conversation in our industry lately as food companies try to anticipate how those medications are going to impact their bottom line. And I think anticipate is the key word. No one knows for sure what the real impact of these weight loss drugs will be on the food and beverage industry at this point. You know, we still kind of see, we need to see some of the long-term impacts that these drugs have on people that use them. We're hearing some of the patients that are using these weight loss drugs are having side effects like stomach paralysis, for example. So as you can imagine, that might turn some potential users off. And I think it's also worth noting that there are multiple shortages of these weight loss drugs right now. So we don't really know how many consumers might be using drugs like Ozempic 5 or 10 years from now.
That's definitely a great point to bring up. Going back into food companies' strategy to market to weight loss drug users, what specific brands do you envision food companies really starting to market to that group?
Yeah, there's definitely some major players in the F&B industry that are banking on a significant portion of the population kind of reconfiguring their diets in a fairly noteworthy way. And because drugs like Ozempic curb appetite, looks like CPG companies like Conagra, as you mentioned, Susan, are really going to promote their healthy choice type frozen meals and products that cater to portion control, I guess you would say. And healthy choice meals tend to be high in protein too. And along the lines of high protein products, we're hearing industry executives predict that users of weight loss medications might start using products like beef jerky, because jerky tends to be low carb, which would appeal to people obviously trying to lose weight and maybe watch their blood sugar levels. So a final note there too, Susan, is that General Mills is working on bringing lower sugar offerings to its Betty Crocker cakes, for example. So that evolution of companies kind of creating and catering to these weight loss drug users with their new products is definitely underway.
Going into top line thinking, what are some of the, from everything you've seen so far, what are some of the biggest impacts you feel weight loss drugs will have on the food and beverage industry?
Well, it's worth keeping in mind that obesity rates in the US and UK, two obvious economic powers, are just way higher than other developed countries like, say, China or Japan. So Americans and Brits could theoretically be big users of these drugs, but there's kind of conflicting stats and reports we're seeing right now regarding these weight loss drugs. Just this morning, a report from Morgan Stanley, and I think it was Numerator, noted that Ozempic users cut grocery spending by as much as 9%, which is somewhat eye-opening. But I think we'll ultimately start to see some smaller product portion sizes over the next few years. But I keep kind of thinking about what one medical advisor told me a few weeks ago, Susan. She said she's confident that these weight loss drugs won't impact the profits and the bottom lines of companies like snack makers and QSRs, because most people seeking weight loss tend to want kind of a quick fix and don't ultimately change their lifestyle for the long term. So ultimately, these weight loss drugs make for a fascinating story that we're going to be monitoring for months to come for sure.
I love that distinction you made just there, quick fixes versus changing lifestyles and eating habits in the long term. We'll certainly be continuing to monitor these trends going forward. Kelly Beaton, FI's very own Chief Content Officer, thank you so much again for joining us.
Thanks.
And as always, you can check out all the great content we've done by clicking on this playlist. I'm Susan Choi. Take care and have a great weekend.